The scale drops 5 pounds in 3 days, and it feels like a miracle. Then it creeps right back up just as fast, and the frustration sets in. Here's what almost nobody explains clearly. That swing was never fat. In this video, we're breaking down exactly how to tell water weight and fat loss apart, why the first week of any diet lies to you, what actually causes water retention, and how to read the scale without losing your mind over normal daily swings. Let's start with what these two things actually are. Water weight is exactly what it sounds like: excess fluid sitting in your tissues, blood vessels, and the spaces between cells. Your body is constantly adjusting how much water it holds based on sodium intake, hormones, stress, and how much carbohydrate you've eaten recently. None of this water is fat, and none of it represents a real change in your body composition. Body fat is stored energy, held in fat cells throughout your body. Unlike water, fat doesn't shift in a day. Losing real fat requires a sustained calorie deficit over time, and your body releases it slowly and consistently rather than in dramatic overnight swings. So how do you actually tell them apart? Speed is the single best clue you have, and it's almost always enough on its own. Water weight moves fast. A 3-pound jump or drop within a day or two, especially after a salty meal, a long flight, a new workout, or a hormonal cycle, that's water. Full stop. Real fat loss doesn't work that way. It shows up gradually, typically half a kilogram to a kilogram, roughly 1 to 2 pounds per week at a realistic, sustainable pace. Location is the second clue. Water retention tends to show up in specific, recognizable places: puffiness around the face, swollen fingers, ankles that leave a sock mark, or a stomach that feels tight and bloated rather than soft. Fat is distributed more evenly across your usual problem areas and doesn't create that sudden puffy or swollen feeling. And duration is the third clue. Water weight is temporary by definition. It shows up because of a specific trigger and resolves once that trigger passes, usually within a few days. Fat loss is a durable change. Once it's gone, it stays gone as long as you don't rebuild the calorie surplus that created it in the first place. Here's a quick way to picture the difference. Imagine two people who both step on the scale and see 3 pounds gone. Person 1 ate a normal calorie-controlled diet all week, slept well, and trained like usual. Their 3 pounds is almost certainly real fat loss. Person 2 just came back from a beach vacation with 3 days of salty restaurant food, poor sleep, and no exercise. Then suddenly went back to eating clean. Their 3 pounds is almost entirely water shifting back to normal. Same number on the scale, completely different reality underneath it. Now here's the single most common source of confusion, and understanding it will save you a lot of unnecessary disappointment. When you cut carbohydrates or overall calories, your body starts burning through its stored glycogen, the form your muscles and liver use to store carbs for quick energy. Here's the part that matters. Each gram of glycogen is stored bound to roughly 3 grams of water. So when you burn through, say, 400 grams of glycogen in your first week of a new diet, you're also releasing over a kilogram of water right along with it. That combined glycogen and water loss is exactly why the first week of nearly any diet shows a dramatic drop that no later week ever matches, even when your actual fat loss rate stays perfectly consistent the whole time. This is not a bad thing, and it's not cheating. It's just biology. The mistake is expecting that same rate of loss to continue, then feeling like you failed when week 2 shows a much smaller number. Let's talk about what actually causes water retention day to day. Sodium intake is the biggest one. Your body holds on to extra water to keep the concentration of sodium in your blood balanced. A salty restaurant meal or a bag of chips can easily add a pound or two of water weight by the next morning. Hormonal changes matter too. For many women, the days leading up to a period bring genuine, measurable water retention, often adding to 5 pounds temporarily. New exercise routines are another one. Starting a new workout program causes small tears in muscle tissue, and your body sends extra fluid to the area as part of the repair process. That's a completely normal, healthy response, not a sign anything is wrong. Stress and poor sleep play a role too, since elevated cortisol can cause your body to retain more fluid than usual. And dehydration, ironically, when you don't drink enough water, your body tends to hold on to whatever fluid it has as a protective measure, which can paradoxically make you retain more water, not less. There's a somewhat counterintuitive fix here too. Drinking more water regularly, not less, actually signals to your body that it doesn't need to hoard fluid defensively. People who are chronically underhydrated often notice less puffiness and bloating, once they start drinking enough water consistently, which feels backwards until you understand the mechanism behind it. Most short-term water weight resolves within 24 to 72 hours once the trigger passes. If it's from starting a brand new diet or workout routine, it can take 1 to 2 full weeks for your body to fully stabilize and settle into its new normal. And that adjustment period is completely expected, not a sign that anything has gone wrong. So how do you actually read the scale without losing your mind? The single best fix is changing how often and how you weigh yourself. Daily weigh-ins are genuinely useful, but only if you look at the weekly trend line rather than reacting to any single day's number. Weigh yourself first thing in the morning, after using the bathroom, and before eating or drinking anything for the most consistent comparison. Then average out your weight across each full week and compare that average to the previous week's average. This one change alone eliminates almost all the frustration because daily noise gets smoothed out and the real trend becomes obvious. Track more than the scale, too. Waist measurements, progress photos taken in consistent lighting, and how your clothes fit are all far more honest indicators of actual fat loss than any single day on the scale. Since none of them are affected by short-term water shifts the way body weight is, a simple weekly routine makes this easy to stick with. Once a week, on the same morning, take your weight average, a waist measurement with a tape measure, and one photo in the same spot with the same lighting. Compare each of those three against last week's numbers, not against yesterday. If 2 out of 3 are trending the right direction, your plan is working, even if any single one of them looks flat or noisy on its own that week. Let's cover the common mistakes people make. The biggest one is panicking over a normal overnight fluctuation and making a drastic, unnecessary change to an otherwise working diet plan. A second is quitting a diet in the second week because the dramatic first week drop doesn't repeat, not realizing that first week included a one-time glycogen and water flush that skewed expectations. A third is weighing in inconsistently at different times of day or after wildly different meals, which makes day-to-day comparisons meaningless. And a fourth is ignoring non-scale signs of progress entirely, missing real fat loss because the number on the scale stayed flat during a week of heavy water retention. Here's where this actually matters for your progress. Understanding water weight versus fat loss won't make you lose fat any faster, but it will stop normal, harmless fluctuations from derailing a plan that's actually working. The fundamentals that drive real fat loss remain the same regardless: a consistent calorie deficit, enough protein, regular movement, and enough sleep. Water weight is just noise sitting on top of that real signal, and learning to filter it out is what keeps people consistent long enough to see the fat loss that was happening the entire time. So here's the bottom line. It comes down to one simple test: speed. Fast, dramatic swings are water. Slow, steady progress over weeks is fat. The scale will always bounce around day to day because of sodium, hormones, glycogen, and stress. And none of that reflects a failure on your part. Weigh in consistently, track your weekly average instead of daily numbers, and let the honest, gradual trend line tell you the real story. The full written breakdown, with the complete glance table and every trigger for water retention, is linked down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.